Welcome to this episode of the Underground Bunker podcast. And I'm so thrilled today to be joined by my old friend, Joe Reese. Joe, how are you doing, man?
Hello, Tony. Good to see you. You look good.
Well, so do
For
you.
an
So
East
do
Coast
you.
guy, you're looking good. I will admit. So that's a good thing. After all the stress you've gone through lately, you're still looking good.
Oh, well, thank you, Joe. Well, you and I have been talking for a decade. I checked the first article
Yeah.
where I quoted you was in 2013, and
Yeah,
we've
amazing.
kept in touch over the years. The last time we did something substantial was right after Danny Masterson was charged in 2020.
Okay.
We did a story, and so let me help some of the viewers may not understand
Sure. Go ahead.
who you are. The reason
Right.
why I was talking to you about that is you were Danny Masterson's stepfather for quite a few years, and you are the father of Danny's two siblings, Alana and Jordan Masterson.
That's right. I'm the biological guy. I'm the seed donor. How about that?
Right.
The sperm donor, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you were their dad,
Oh, yeah.
and I have said this before that I was at every day of the first trial,
Right.
every day of the second trial, and
Yeah.
Alana and Jordan were there on almost every day,
No,
and
amazing.
they would be sitting just a few feet in front of me, and I've always said that Alana and Jordan sitting there may be the single best visible representation of Scientology in that courtroom
Oh, yeah.
because here are these two people, how they're like in their late 20s, early 30s by now.
30s. Jordan was
Yeah.
born in 86 and Alana was born in 88.
And they have recurring roles on television series. They're actors in their own right,
That's
but
correct.
they don't use your name and they cut you out of their lives entirely
Yeah,
because
unfortunately.
you left Scientology. So tell me a little bit about the Masterson family that you knew and what you think they're going through now.
Well, I've known the Masterson family since 84. I met Frank Masterson, who was Danny's grandfather, military guy, great person, State Farm agent, loving person, and never put up with BS that Frank did. He had three sons. One of them was Pete, which is Danny's dad, and another great guy. Just a nice family. So that love and affection, you could see that as an early on in the way that they brought up those children, and you could tell that they were very close knit, even at that time when Danny was even a younger kid. Okay, so that bonding was already there from literally inception, Tony.
And you met them through Scientology, right?
Yeah, exactly right. In 82, I met them in Los Angeles originally. And then we got to become friends. And then what was that? 85, Carol had divorced. We got back together as friends and we joined the Sea Org. So that gives you an idea. And Danny and Chris, they were with us in the Sea Org. They had half the time they spent with us on the Sea Org campus. And then the other times I'd spend with their dad in New York. So it was back and forth. So we grew up all together, really, how it was.
So those kids, what, they could only see you a couple hours a day because you were
Yeah,
the
like
Sea Org?
if you remember the Sea Org schedule, they were basically, they're at school, and then we'd see them during our 2 hours or so of family time that we used to have back in the 80s. And we saw them, and then we went back to work. They stayed in the what they call the QI, which was a condominium complex, very small, but that's how it was for them. And Jordan was born at that time, so yeah, there was three of us plus two parents.
And then I think when I interviewed you before, you told
Sure.
me that you had a really unique role in the Sea Org, which I thought was interesting. That when people wanted refunds
Yeah.
from Scientology, Scientology would fly you out to
All right.
talk them out of it. How did you talk people out of asking for
Well,
refunds?
it was almost like I remember my story like being the mafia and all that stuff. I was like the cleaner, someone gets killed, they send the guy in to clean up the mess. So I sort of, my background, as you know, in professional football, I was a fairly disciplined, no BS kind of guy. And when there was a problem, we'd solve it. So to me, when I was in the C organization, I was trained to be a class auditor. I already was a class 5 auditor. So joining the Sea Org, I was a hot commodity because they didn't need to train me from the bottom up, because I was already half there in the training bridge. So one day I was asked to go to New York to handle refunds. And I was like, what is a refund? What is that? And it was told me that people wanted their money back. And they're like, their money back? Why do they want their money back? This is crazy. Not realizing the truth of it until I went there. And in my first episode, there were 6 refund requests. I met a billionaire, multi-billionaire. I didn't know he was a billionaire, sorted him out. But I just got to the truth of what the real problem was. And honestly, I started to realize that they weren't wrong. They were like pissed off. And I could understand why they were pissed off, but I could understand how the church was culpable for what they did for them to be pissed off. So what I did was I just sort of mediated in my head, said, listen, let's call the gentleman, I'll give you an example, Mr. Ed Broider. You can Google his name, multi-billionaire. He owned the Oakwood Apartments in California, owns them all worldwide. He had a company called R&D Construction. I didn't know who he was. He wanted his money back. It was $27,000 from Florida, from Flag. I said, So Ed, what's going on? Tell me the story. What happened? And he told me the whole story. And quite frankly, it was just, he was done with it. And he just wanted his money back. I said, well, all right. Well, we got into discussion. I said, did you get any benefits out? He said, sort of, but it just got too redundant. It was too much money. It was too much. They kept asking. I went, no, I'm familiar with that story. So, after we got that, we became friends. He said, Joe, you know what? I don't want the money. Keep it. I said, really? He said, yeah, I don't care. You're a good guy. Come work for me. I said, no, I can't. I'm in the Sea Org. I should have worked for him, actually. I would have been his right-hand man in a way. But then there was these other requests, and I realized the church had done the wrong thing with their counseling demands. They'd spent 30, 40, 50, 60 grand, didn't get a result. And then when it didn't happen, then the church blamed them that they were somehow responsible for the no result condition. I was like, no, hang on, that makes no sense. If a guy came in to solve a problem and I gave you 60,000, it doesn't resolve the problem, you can't be blaming me for the problem when you said you could fix the problem.
So you were sent out to talk people out of asking for refunds, but over time
I started to see why they wanted them.
You began to see their point of view.
And what we did as an organization to piss them off, screw them over, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, when a guy gives you 100 grand or $200,000 and he's got that money sitting in Flag, he wants his money back because he's done with it. So then the church would call him a suppressive person, make him wrong, don't pay his bills, don't pay the request, jerk him around for 9 months. Now he's pissed off. They send out these Sea Org members to sort him out, never got anywhere. So they sent me out and I fixed all of them. They just dropped their client. I guess just talk the truth. I said, look, I don't blame you for wanting your money back. I didn't blame them because I knew what we did as an organization. And they were almost shocked to think that, oh my God, someone actually believes what I'm telling them. Because in Scientology's mind, they're not going to believe anything that you said if you want your money back. You must be a criminal or you're an out ethics person and, whatever. So that's how it evolved. So I handled like about 79 out of about 81 cases.
Wow.
And I was just, I had a Midas touch with that. But I just spoke the truth, Tony. I just wanted to know the truth. I didn't care how bad it was. But we've got to find the truth. And when you find the truth, then everything resolves. Not blame. There's no blame game.
So then you're increasingly sort of sympathizing with those folks is what led you to leave the Sea Org?
Well, I was starting to see that the gains and the promises, as you know all too well, because you've documented it for so long, that their ability to deliver this extraterrestrial or whatever you want to call it state of, whatever you want to call it, the matrix is not possible. Absolutely not possible. And I did all of Scientology by the age of 24. I was the only professional athlete in the world on OT7, which was the highest level at the time.
Right.
Always thinking that to improve myself, then I was willing to do whatever it took because I was a good student. Didn't matter. And when I started to see the holds, then I started to see the justifications that, well, maybe something's wrong with me. And I was like, oh no, this is not working. And then when you would address it, I said, well, this will get handled with a new rundown coming out. And the new rundown would not be the same. It wouldn't deliver the results, and now they're even pissed off even more. So as you know, if you've evolved in your documentaries and so forth, it kept changing. The goalposts kept changing. And people was like, I've had enough of this shit. Okay, I want my money back. And once you said the money back, then they were jumping around hoops to make sure you didn't get your money back. Come on, there's a policy that says just pay them.
Right.
Church didn't want to do that. They set up what they call a claims verification board, which was basically a jerk off routine to go to get your money. You have to go to flag, you have to wait on their time, wait around days and days and days. They jerked you around, you got pissed off and left. So then you go get an attorney. You see, this is what I was, and I was like, this is wrong, man. This is just not right.
Yeah.
So that's what I went through, and so be it. But it was just an interesting seeing it from a external perspective, because most people, go ahead.
And let me just, for those who are a little bit confused when you said football, professional football, just to point out, you're a Lebanese Australian athlete who played what we call rugby. You're calling it football.
Well, in Australia, we call it the NRL or rugby league. So it's abbreviated NRL. And that's your American football on steroids with no padding.
Right, no padding.
I did play against some of the 49ers that came down to Australia to play, and they got the shit kicked out of them. They just could not deal with physical contact. And, you know, rugby guys are pit bulls on steroids. So, you know, the more you abuse us, the stronger we get. So it doesn't really phase us. And as you know, I grew up in the Civil War in Beirut for 5 years. So I saw all of that carnage. So I was a hardened rhinoceros skin of abuse, bullshit, whatever you want to call it. So in many ways, I could shield myself against the BS of the church at the time, because I just wanted to see people happy or see people get the gains. And so that's what happened. So I was kind of like their clear guy, you know, clean up all the mess, but it meant nothing to them. I saved them literally tens of millions of dollars in lawsuits, refund monies, because what people don't know is when a refund hit the church on a let's say on a Wednesday, and let's say it was $100,000 refund request, it was an automatic $200,000 penalty against that organization's production for that week. They call that production value of service delivered, or VSD. So if they made $1 million that week, at the time the church was making about $2 million a week when I was there. So 200,000 from that 100,000 would come off. They couldn't spend it because they blocked it to pay the guy, which meant everyone went on rice and beans for weeks. I loved rice and beans because of my mother's, you know, favorite meal. I was like, no problem. Carol hated it. So it was like, this is what happened. It was a severe penalty. So they had to get rid of it. So they said, Joe, you're going to Mexico, you're going to Europe, you're going to wherever, fly by plane, you're on a plane in 5 minutes, get out, go sort it out to get it off that production that week. So I was that guy.
So then what was Carol doing in the Sea Org at that time?
Carol, she was the director of processing, and to her compliment, she was very good. She could run a board of counselors of 8 to 10 to 15 all at once, move the pre-clears through their sessions, get them sort of all aligned up to get their sessions on time, on cue. She ran a tight ship and she ran 2 divisions. So she was very good administrator in that area. Quite talented, to be honest.
And so what happened when you came to her and said that you'd had enough of the Sea Org? Was she feeling the same way, or?
Well, yeah, because when I decided to leave in '86, I was just done with it. I had some stuff that I wanted to handle, and I was never going to be able to handle it within the church. And I said, Carol, it's up to you, but I'm going to leave the Sea Org. If you want to stay, I'm okay with that, because that's your passion. That's what you want to do. Fine. And she didn't want to do that. So she wanted to leave as well. So we both did that. And unfortunately, when you leave, you get ridiculed, if you know what I mean, within the Sea Org, because you're considered, let's call it for a better word, a scumbag or low life for leaving this organization. And I get the reasons why, fair enough, but I'm not a scumbag. She's not a scumbag or a degraded being.
Well, weren't you also hit by a degraded being, right? Weren't you also hit with a freeloader's debt too?
Yeah, the freeloader's debt. Well, see, the beauty is I only had a freeloader's debt of $3,000 because I was already trained. I was fully trained. So here's the screw here, right? When you get really screwed down properly, is you join the Sea Org, you pay for all of these services for free because you're in the Sea Org, but they're not charged until you leave. And then you get a freeloader debt of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand, and you've worked for 40 hours to 60, 80 hours a week paying $30, and now you got another bill for 50 grand after you leave.
Right.
That's a total screw up. Even though you worked 80 hours a week or 90 hours a week, you see.
So what did you, well, what kind of a freeloader debt did Carol get?
She probably was like $5,000. She
Okay,
didn't do much training. And I already was trained, so we didn't get whacked with it, to be honest.
okay.
Which was good. That was
And
in
then
86.
86, and then after that, how did Carol get into managing in Hollywood?
Well, she was their manager for Danny and Chris in the early 80s. She would take them into in New York, she would take them into because they were Ford models and they were going to do what they call print work for magazine covers. And that's how she started. That's how when I first met them, that's what they were doing in 82.
Okay.
And then in 86, we went to LA, stayed for 2 years. I got into the mortgage business. We started, doing all of our various work you had to do because now you've come out of the Sea Org. There's nothing. You start all over again. Came back to New York. I ran Pete's agency, the Stay Farm agency. Carol managed the kids and started doing the same thing she did in 82. Took the kids into the city. Jordan now is 2 years old. Danny and Chris are booking ads on magazines and now commercials, WWE type commercials, which pay very good money. So she was a smart woman with regards to managing their careers because they would make very good money. Print would pay you $100, $150 a print, but a commercial could pay you $2,000, $3,000.
Right.
As you know, if it goes in nationally, you might make 10, 15, 20 grand.
Right.
Nowadays, guys make millions of dollars with the faces of Geico or Progressive. Those guys just are making all the money in the world because it's residual. So that's how she made money, and that's how we made money. Okay. So we kind of got on our feet. And Pete was very supportive of the family, a very unselfish person, I've got to tell you.
And then Alana came along?
Alana came along in 88. It was a girl. Carol was extremely happy because she had 3 boys. I finally gave her a girl, which was like, as you can imagine, a mother with a daughter versus a mother having 3 boys. And she was born in Long Island, New York, and that's how she came along. Beautiful girl, adorable as usual,
And then you started having some trouble with Scientology itself. I mean, because you had come out of the Sea Org, but you were still Scientologist, right?
Yes, yeah, and the problem is it was failing to deliver on its promise of spiritual immortality. What does that really mean in fucking English? Is your ability to be able to control your thoughts at will. Well, okay, fine, but I'm an athlete. An athlete's ability is to performance on a field. And if you, as you know, as a sports athlete, if you're shooting a 3-pointer in the NBA and you're shooting 20 out of 20, you're going to be a freak, okay? Or in golf, you sink a 20-foot putt, people go, okay, that's, lucky, do it again. Well, in Scientology, if you were that able, you could do it all the time at will, because that's their whole premise of being, I guess, OT. And that was the thing that was the sizzle. But unfortunately, like, remember, you had guys like John Brody, who was the 49ers quarterback. I met John, okay, back in the early 80s. You had Bob Adams, played with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You had Tim Allen playing with the Kansas City Royals. Jimmy Brewer, the LA Lakers. I knew all these guys, okay? And a lot of them I was asking, well, did you really excel to your maximum potential? Now, if you compare that to, let's say, a Michael Jordan, he did no Scientology. He was a champion. So explain how a non-Scientology guy could be a champion with no technology, and a guy who's got all the technology can't pull off that shit. There was the rub. And every time I tried to address it, I said, well, it gets handled on the next level. Or be handled. See, it was always the goalpost shifting.
Right.
And that's the bait and switch I've always talked about, to be a bait and switch. Now, was there some good value in it? Of course there was. I'm not that stupid. But the reality of it is I could go to the Bahamas and feel good. I could go on skiing on a mountain and feel good. That was not the point of being in Scientology. I wanted to know the secret, if there was a secret, and get on top of that secret and then demonstrate that secret so that people could embrace it. Well, you can't do it when it's not being able to be delivered. And then the justification is, well, there's something wrong with you. That's why it's not working. What the fuck? Are you kidding? I've committed everything.
Right.
Money, time, effort. I'm trained. I'm not a stupid student. I'm an aptitude student. I can sort out anything. I can't solve this problem. Anyway, see, that was where the clash started. Okay.
And then which came first, you leaving Scientology or you and Carol splitting up?
Well, we split up in 1995.
Okay.
It was just becoming too ridiculous. It was too costly. It was too much money. And it was always, you had to go there to get sorted out. I was married to two wives. I had my wife, and I had the Church of Scientology, the other wife. Okay, they were terrible because they interfered with everything. As you know, when something goes wrong, someone writes a report. It's called a knowledge report. Well, I was having my kids writing reports on their dad because their mother said you need to write a report on your father. So then I had to be sent back to Flag, go through an interview with a 15-year-old trying to tell me what's right, what's wrong. And I'm sitting there going, are you fucking kidding me, man?
Are you, so hang on, are you saying that Danny Masterson wrote KRs on you?
Well, actually, to be real honest, it was Jordan and Alana,
Your own biological
my
son?
own two kids. And they would never write it. They were put up to doing it because I was considered upsetting the apple cart or interpolating the area. I'm the dad, for Pete's sake.
What were the complaints they were making in the KR?
Well, because I called them at 1:30 in the morning and I couldn't find them. And I realized I went to a movie theater in Flag when I was in Los Angeles and I was losing my shit because I didn't know where my two kids were at 1 o'clock in the morning after I was trying to get a hold of them for 7 hours. So I flipped the lid. Why wouldn't I flip the lid? Are they dead? Are they in a car accident? No, they were doing Scientology stuff and movies. And therefore they were there. So I was interpolating. So I got it written what they call a non-interpolation order.
Which is one step away from being declared
correct
as a person. Yeah.
And I'm already in the shit house anyway, because I'm always in ethics because I'm this troublemaker kind of guy. And so it just added fuel to the fire. I must be the bad guy.
So if they were writing a KR about you, this would have been the mid 90s, I guess, before you. Yep. They would have only been about 7 or 8 years old, right?
That's the whole idea. That's the snitch culture. Tony, I raised my kids to them snitching on me to another group. How bizarre is that? If I was in the Middle East, there'd be an RPG in that place. You understand? Because they wouldn't put up with that crap. But they just got into the family, and now I have no family. It's whatever family.
Okay, so my question again was so in 1995 you and Carol split up, and that was about the time you also left the church itself?
No, I left the church. I got excommunicated.
Oh, it was 10 more years later, wasn't it?
Right.
Okay,
so
okay.
What I did was, so that was, that puts the timeline there. No, you're
right.
good. You're good with that.
So you and Carol split up in 1995, but then you've explained to me that you still were very much a part of all 4 children's lives.
Oh, yeah.
So you and Carol split up about 1995, but you were still in Scientology for another 10 years after that. And during that time, your own children, Alana and Jordan, were snitching on you with knowledge reports, even though they were just little kids.
Yes, because they were coerced into writing them, because they would never have originated that, Tony. No kid at 7 years old is going to say, you know what, I'm going to write a knowledge report on my father. They're not even doing Scientology. So unless they were told that this is the only way to help your dad is to write a report on him.
Right.
It was 2 lines. My dad is upsetting me and interpolating me, yada, yada, yada. You think my daughter would let? Sure, I know what that means. They must think I'm stupid. I knew that they were put up to it. And then all of a sudden, the next day, I guess I must have stirred up all the women in Florida in the Sea Org, because they were all gunning for me. Because I didn't take any shit from any of them. Okay. And all of a sudden, non-interpolation order. I had to fly back to sort out again another issue that was self-generated by the organization that I had to now deal with. That is not a marriage term.
And again,
It's
a non-interpolation order is
Oh, yeah.
one step away from being declared a suppressive person, which is the ultimate. Then you get kicked out. Everyone has to disconnect from you.
Right. Now look at the blackmail here. Look at the blackmail of this. Some guy could all of a sudden go, oh, Joe's got a non-interpolation order. Let me write a report. I'll make it up and stick it to him easily because they're just waiting for a report. So you've got to address it. Otherwise, if they don't remove it, it's pending over your neck. This is not what I call freedom of speech time. This is not a religion. This is all about control, okay? And subservient and being submissive. I don't play that game, man. Remember, I played rugby. We don't submit to anything, only just bashing. We'll take the bashing 7 days a week, but we're not going to acquiesce to you because you tell us to, okay? Very simple.
So can you tell me then what happened in 2005 that got you out of Scientology altogether?
Yeah, well, what happened was there were some various reports written in over the years. And finally, one day I was in Atlanta, okay? Prior to that, I'll tell you what happened. My daughter Alana called me. I was in Atlanta. She said, Dad. I said, what's up, honey? I said, I'm upset. I said, why are you upset? She said, well, I just had a session and I don't like what's happening and I just want to leave Celebrity Center and they won't let me leave. I said, what? What do you mean they won't let you leave? Yeah, the Master at Arms is not allowing me to leave the organization because of what they call red tag. A red tag is when a PC comes out of session. Remember, people don't know this about me. I'm extremely trained in ethics, tech, and administration. So I'm no slouch when it comes to being hoodwinked, okay? So I said to it, well, okay, hang on a second. What do you mean I won't let you leave? I want to leave, Dad. I'm tired of this. Anyway, so I got the Master at Arms on the phone. I said, listen, this is Alana's dad. My daughter doesn't leave that place in 10 minutes. I'm on a fucking plane and I'm going to come and see you personally. Let her the fuck out of that organization because now the control comes in, you see. And it was like, now I'm interpolating. See how you're screwed? Now I'm interpolating the Sea Org member. You know what that means? Another report's coming. You can't win. All right? So when I finally got all of that, I said, look, I will speak to my daughter on the proviso that she gets a session to clean it up and she leaves. If I don't hear from her in an hour, I'm on a plane. We clear? Very clear? Yes. Okay. She calls me in an hour, all sorted out. This is what I have to do in order to protect my daughter. Okay? People seem to forget all about it. Anyway, so about a month later, I'm in Atlanta on business. I get a phone call from the Continental Justice Chief in Flag. You know, that's the International Justice Chief's junior in the area of the Florida's region. And they said, you are ordered to appear at Flag in 24 hours. Not asked, ordered. That means drop everything and show up. I said, what am I, in Nazi Germany? Just going to drop everything and show up there where you want? The fuck are you talking about? If you don't come in 24 hours, we're going to issue you a declare order. You see how it keeps going now? It just never ends. It's a constant, we've got you, you got to play by our rules. Anyway, I said, no, here's the policy. I'll write the reports. I'll counter the reports with accurate data. I'll send them to you to buy time. So I wasn't just going to acquiesce and just jump on a plane. Who does that?
Right.
So anyway, I sorted that out because I'm trained, ethic trained, administration trained. So they had to back off. I was no pushover. Again, if you don't know the technology, they're going to roll you. So, okay. So this is how you got to play this organization. Otherwise, you're going to get rolled every single time, as you know all too well. Policy. Well, there's 10 billion pages of policy. Which one do you want to use? Take your pick, flip the coin. So I finally shot there in January of 2005 to go down there and sort everything out once and for all. They said, come down, Joe, we'll sort you out. No problem. I said, okay, fine. Went down there. Did I know it was a trap? Yeah, I was ambushed. I got to the Master at Arms. First thing he looks at me says, before you continue, we're going to do what we call a committee of evidence on you, or a COMEV, as you know that term. I said, really? A COMEV? After all you said, now it's a COMEV? Okay, fine. Fuck it. Let's get it out of the way right now, right here. I'm done with this bullshit. In the ComEv, they put a committee together and then they question you on all these reports. That's their job. But it has 7 days from the start of the ComEv that's issued to finish where it has to be done and completed. Otherwise, it's going for months. You can start to make up fabrication if it's not sorted. This is all per policy, by the way. And I'm technically trained and ethics trained and justice trained. I said, okay, I got 7 days, I could sort this out. No problem. So I had to wait till 11 o'clock at night. I had to do it outside of Sea Org hours. 11 o'clock at night. So I'm waiting from 11 till 2 in the morning every night going through these reports. Lo and behold, I'm starting to realize this is going to be a hatchet job. Because now they've got all of the tabs in my folder. Because in Scientology, they mark your folder. It's what they call an ethics file. And they keep building it. And what you don't know is all of these reports become your execution when they feel like it down the road. If they feel like, oh no, it's getting too big, then he must be a crook or something, or we've got to take him out. And I started to go, man, all these people are doing is negating everything that I bring up. For example, so a report would say, Joe did this and this and this. I said, really? Why don't you get the guy on the phone so I could talk to him? No, we can't. So if someone's going to accuse you of something, at least talk to the accuser. Wouldn't that be a fair justice system? Even though the church promotes that it has the fairest justice system, not at all. Okay. So I went through the reports. Some of them were valid, some of them were not, but they got 7 days to make a decision. I said, okay, well, you've brought up all of these bad things. Do you have a list of all the good things I've done for the Church of Scientology? They go, no, we don't have any of your stuff. I said, what do you mean you don't have any of my stuff? I said, you want my 15 years of contribution to this organization? Refunds, auditing, counseling, people, sort out this. I wrote 4 pages of line by line commendations, activities, goals, accomplishments that I did that were left out of the folder. So if you were really an asshole, you could say, let's set this up, take out all of his good shit, keep the bad stuff, and then go, well, that's the bad guy. Look, there's the folder. Anyway, it went on for a week, 2 weeks. I said, you know what, I'm done with this. They wanted me to fight. They wanted me to find out about my child support payments, which is a bone of contention. Okay. So I said, listen, you want me to go back to LA? Because they're in my storage unit. All my checks and balances that are paid. I don't have them right now to just give it to you because there's an accusation from my ex, unfortunately, that I wasn't supporting it. Well, once we got through to the details, that I did a show called Four Corners. I showed them the amounts of money that I paid, verified checks, clearances, balances, and I was way ahead of my monthly contribution for years. But they seem to have left that point out. They just wanted to tarnish me because they've got to find out more shit so they can do their stuff on me. Does that mean I was perfect? No, but how can you be perfect in an imperfect organization? Impossible, because you're in conflict with what they're saying, with what you're trying to do. And then when you don't do it right, you're in conflict anyway. So fucked if you do and fucked if you don't. It's a no-win situation. And if you're a guy that doesn't take shit, they don't like you because you've got integrity. You're going to stand up, get in their face. They don't like that. They want you to be subservient, follow the policy. What if the policy is not right? Anyway, so months went on, Tony. No reply, no response. Per policy, if that comment is not sorted and recommendation within 7 days, it's considered null and void, right? Because it's not done. Can't let it go for 3 months. That would be slow justice. So come July, I get a letter from the Continental Justice Chief in Florida. She said, okay, we have your findings and recommendations. It's called F&Rs. I said, okay, great. We'll send them to you. All right. So I waited. It was like June the 11th. I know the date all too well. I go to the mailbox. It's not there. She called up, said, it's not there. I said, no, it's not there. Interesting. I wait 2 days and it's finally dropped off. So it was hand delivered. Between the first time that they said that I got my recommendations to the 2 days later, in that 2-day period of time, I tried to call my kids and friends. No one answered. Sorry. What the hell? All my friends of 20 years. No one called back. They all it was almost like I was non-existent. 2 days later, I get the FNR's recommendation for declare order, suppressive person. I was like, what the fuck? After all this shit, this is what they've done. Okay, fine. Called up Jordan Alana, no answer. 4, 5, 6, 7 times. I went, oh my God, here's what they did, these motherfuckers. They already had me declared, told everyone else, and didn't tell me. Because if they would have told me first before telling everyone else, Tony, what would I have done? I would have been on a plane, I would be in LA, I'd be at the Glendale residence of my ex, I'd be sorting everyone out, right there in real time. But they already been told. And then they were told, oh, he's a suppressive person, you have to disconnect. You see how their sabotage was? So this is how they do their scheming. That's how they do their mutiny game. They cut the ties and then don't let the person know.
And
Anyway,
at that point, in the middle of 2005, how old were Alana and Jordan? They would have been about 17 or.
Yep, 17 and 15 years old, respectively.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? So Lana would have been 17 and Jordan would have been 19. So they were adults. But I could imagine, this is what I feel for my kids. On the flip side, I'd be taking my kids and ripping them a rear end. How would you do that to your dad? Why didn't you just call your father and say, Dad, I just found out you did that. What's going on? None of that. So I know that they were ramrodded, steamrolled, and I'm sure they were upset.
And you've never heard from them since?
No, 19 years.
At that point in 2005, I know this might seem like a silly, trivial point, but were they Alana and Jordan Reich, or were they Alana and Jordan Masterson?
No, Jordan.
So they changed their name after that.
And I didn't know that. And look how that's come back to haunt them. Think about that now. Currently.
Well, we're going to get to that soon. We're going to talk about where they're going from here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I knew this story, and like I said, that's why, the Masters. I was told this when we were before the first trial, that this family was extremely tight.
Yeah.
And they would stick by Danny no matter what.
And
so,
of course they would.
And then once the first trial started, you saw it. I mean, every single day, that whole family section was filled with Christopher, Alana, Jordan, and also Will, Will Masterson is Peter's son by another marriage. He's a half brother to Chris and Denny.
Smart kid too. Good kid.
And so they were there day after day. Family, friends were there. But I want to now turn to even then you remained in there up to that point. Yep. You had been in Danny and Christopher's lives, even though you were no longer married to Carol.
Absolutely.
So I'm sorry, we're going to roll back from before the declare. When Danny was first getting onto that 70s show, which would have been about
1998.
98. Okay. You've been split up with Carol for a few years, but you're still in their lives.
Oh yeah.
And you said you were doing mortgage work. You actually helped Danny get the mortgage on his Hollywood Hills home, right?
Well, I was a mortgage broker for years, and Danny had just booked that 70s show, so he was making some income. But the problem was he was too much of a rookie when it comes to loan applications, and I used to underwrite loans. And I found a perfect loan for him based on his income and based on the declaration of what he would do to be able to pay off that loan. And I went with him to the closing and closed the fucking house. He could not have gotten that house without me. Now, do I want a medal for that? No. I cared about that kid. I cared about him or Chris. I used to train Chris. I used to train Danny. Okay, so these were years after I was divorced. So the divorce didn't make me separate from the kids and go, I don't want them anymore because they're not my children. I love those kids. Danny was a good kid to his brothers and sisters. That's why they're tight. Period. People need to understand that. What he did later, that's his business. Courts have come in, have made their decision. I'm not going to comment on that. That's their decision. So be it. Justice is served. But prior to that, he was a good brother to his brother and and Jordan and Alana. I'm not going to piss on a kid like that. Absolutely. That's just the way that works. So I'm going to help him. You see what I mean, Tony?
Yeah, you were still involved in their lives. Yeah, and the reason why I wanted to bring that up is, so in that period from 95 to 2005, you were still in their lives, even though, and you were still in Scientology. I brought up something to you and you confirmed for me. One of the interesting things I find about Danny is that he's just a pitiful Scientologist. If you're just looking at going up the bridge, and I've noticed this about a lot of young celebrities or children of celebrities, they don't seem to feel much pressure. Like you said, you were OT7 by like what, 24 years old or something?
24.
I mean,
I was the youngest athlete in the world.
you went all the way to the top, and that was as high as it got back then.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of the celebrities who joined, like Travolta and Tom Cruise and Kirstie Alley, they went all the way to the top. There, you know, there's a lot of ambition to get to OT8. Ultimately, became the highest level.
Yeah.
But with Danny and some other younger celebrities and also children of celebrities,
Yeah.
I noticed that they don't seem to have much ambition at all.
No, not at
And
all.
even today, Danny's not clear, which is just an intermediate step.
Yeah,
And when
Danny,
when I brought that up
received-
to you,
Yeah.
you confirmed that he just didn't seem very interested in it, right?
No, Danny was introduced to auditing when he was about 8 years old. He got what we call, field auditor counseling in New York. I remember that. I remember the day clearly well. And so, their parents really wanted them to get involved and so forth. The problem is Danny was not a great student.
Hmm.
You be a good student, you got to be disciplined in Scientology, extremely disciplined. And I was disciplined all my life because I was an athlete. Discipline is like, oh, that's nothing. It's easy. And to study and clear all the words and go through that, you've got to be 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 hours in a day. You've got to have some testicles to go, okay, I'm going to do it 5 days a week or 7 days a week. How are you going to do that when you're a celebrity? Okay, doesn't work.
Well, some did. I mean, Leah Remini told me that every single night after taping King of Queens, she would go down to the Celebrity Center every single night. So I guess some of them do have the
some of them do
discipline, but Danny wasn't one of them.
No, and if you talk about Leah, I met her when she was 16 years old in Los Angeles. She worked for two friends of mine, John and Valerie Futures. Good girl, Brooklyn chick, doesn't take bullshit. And she clearly, I could tell straight, this girl was an athlete in a previous life. But when she said she was going to become famous and nothing was going to stop her at 16, I knew then that girl is going to roll over and take over Hollywood in her own way. And guess what? That's what she did. Tough chick, Brooklyn. Do I need to explain any more?
But Danny wasn't just didn't have that motivation,
and he wasn't pushed. And I think probably from a mother's perspective with Carol, she wanted him to go up the bridge as fast as possible because Carol was a dedicated student, so was I. But it just wasn't his cup of tea.
Now I've been
school anyway.
I'm sorry, say that again.
He didn't like school anyway. So when you don't like school, you're gonna like studying.
Right. I've been told that Carol had a ready answer if somebody brought that up about Danny not being clear. That she would quickly say he was clear in a previous life.
Nah, sorry about that. Everyone's got their perspective, but if that's the case, then you get it validated. There's a technology to validate it, so you know that you are, you're not.
Wow.
Dianetic Clear Special Intensive. I used to be one of their first auditors that did that. But what people don't understand is I know this whole game inside out. Thank God. And I have an aptitude. So it helped me understand people. And that's why I did the refunds, because it helped me understand people, not judge people. Scientology is all about judging everyone who doesn't fit in their repertoire. That makes sense.
Well, and speaking of that, so even though Danny was never clear and wasn't very dedicated to doing courses or auditing or anything like that, he was still reliable as a celebrity who would defend Scientology publicly. He gave magazine interviews. He said other things publicly where he has said, he's really been a bit of a bulldog defending Scientology. So then my question for you is, if he wasn't much for processing and he wasn't really dedicated to courses, was he still a dedicated Scientologist in the sense of being part of that philosophy and accepting that he was a Scientologist?
Look, I think there's two ways to look at it. There's the theoretical Scientologist that studies the theory and talks theory. And then there's the practical Scientologist that has the application of that theory, who's just a bulldog, okay? Danny was not the application theory guy, okay? And that's fine. I don't judge him for that. But, there's two tiers of justice system, which we'll get into if you want, regarding celebrities and the regular Scientologist plebes that get shafted when the church doesn't like you, and then the celebrity that gives money, who's of an opinion leader status, gets the protection, which I've seen it too many different times. It doesn't work.
Well, let's talk about that, because I know you want to be a little careful about the specific allegations against Danny, but what about in general? One of the things we heard a lot about in the second trial, more than in the first trial, was this idea of ethics protection for a celebrity like Danny, and that the victims who came forward with allegations against him were punished. They were punished for being victims, and they found that they had no protection at all. They were put through ethics handlings and that kind of thing. Can you talk about that from your perspective? Did you see that kind of thing? I can
quote you from that every angle you want, 360 degrees, upside down and twisted if you would like. There is two levels of justice in the church, okay? The plebes, or the regular guys that don't give a shit, the church doesn't care about, they don't care, they've got no status, they've got no influence, they've got no control, they're going to get pissed on 7 days a week, twice on Sunday, okay? That's just how it is. Now, let's take the person who's a celebrity. Let's define the celebrity as someone that's an actor or famous, and some guy who's a celebrity because he donates a ton of money to the church. So you got those two categories, okay, within that sphere of elitist, because there is an elitist in the church, period. Completely against Scientology's membership policy. We don't have elitism. We just have people that do Scientology. Anyway, that changed, okay, when the new hierarchy took over in '86. So now the status thing changed. So if you gave money, millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars, or you were a celebrity on TV, you weren't ridiculed in ethics, because what are you going to do? Tell a celebrity, hey, you can't do this, and can't. You just say, fuck you, I'll do what I want. So what are you going to do? Create a problem now? That master at arms who had that problem with the celebrity is now going to get his ass chewed out by his senior, because the celebrity is going to go, that guy pissed me off, fuck you. You know, it just becomes a snowball effect. And so they just turn a blind eye. I know many of them, ton of them. So that people don't think they're generalized. I got a friend of mine, Richie Acunto, celebrity guy, got away with literally murder because he gave millions to the church. And he just did the wrong thing. You see? But if someone else did the wrong thing and he wasn't a celebrity, he'd be told, you're in ethics, you got to do all these amends, you got to do all of this contribution. And they put him through the ringer. Can you imagine putting Leah through the ringer or Danny through the ringer? Danny would say, fuck off. He'd just kick he wouldn't do that no matter who it was. So they tread water carefully with those kind of guys. The PR flap outweighs the trying to handle them. Is that a disservice to someone like Danny? Absolutely. Two different systems.
Well, let's try. I know it's a complicated setup. It's because you've got, but I want to get your thoughts about this. So Danny Masterson, who has been this reliable celebrity, gets charged with these violent, awful crimes. Now, I was told repeatedly during those first years, you know, when I first broke the news of the investigation of 2017, 2018, 2019, we're waiting for charges if they're going to come. We didn't know if they were. I would be told repeatedly by people, oh, you know what, if he's charged, Scientology's going to throw him under the bus. You know, Miscavige is just not going to put up with that. But then he was charged in June 2020, and Miscavige did not throw him under the bus. In fact, we saw attorneys from the church coming in trying to interfere with the criminal case. We saw the criminal defense attorneys doing things that could only be understood as requests by Miscavige. And that, of course, raises the issue that maybe Miscavige was footing the bill as well. I saw anything but Danny Masterson being thrown under the bus during those couple of years when he was facing charges and leading up to the trial.
It'll never happen. It'll never happen.
Okay, well, so now things have changed, though, Joe. So now Danny Masterson has been convicted, was led away to, he's in Men's County Jail in the city in Los Angeles. He will eventually be sentenced and then sent to state prison or somewhere. He's facing 30 years to life in prison. So, that's the former CEO people I know, the former ethics people I know, all say that when somebody commits a crime like that and they are convicted, Scientology will automatically cut off contact. But now, what makes it more complicated is you've got this really tight family that were in the courtroom day after day. Alana and Jordan were there. They are celebrities in their own right.
Correct.
So they've got some ethics protection. So let me just ask you, I know that you've been out for quite a while, but just based on your experience and your knowledge of these
I've got a
people,
lot of it. So I've got a lot of it. So go ahead.
what is going to happen to Carol, to Christopher, to Alana, to Jordan, now that Danny has been convicted and sent and will be sent to prison? Are they going to be kicked out of Scientology? Are they going to be declared suppressive?
No way.
What do you think is going to happen?
No way. And I'll tell you why. All right, because I know how this organization runs. They're all about protecting their PR. Okay, their PR is if they turn on Danny and turn on the family, now you've got Leah Remedy times 5. They'll tell the church to stick it. If they turn on the church, I'll just tell the church to stick. Now, do you think the church wants that?
Interesting.
No way. They're not going to have it. So they'll rather keep it like cabbage on a wharf. They'll just leave it out there in the sun and just let it rot itself away. They'll just leave Danny alone, the kids alone, and just leave it alone. Because why upset the apple cart? They're already upset. You're now going to squeeze them when they're upset with their brother who they love unconditionally. They won't do it. I'll guarantee you they won't do it.
Interesting.
The only person that would do it is if Danny turned on the church. Okay? And then he said, I'm done with these guys. And then that's a whole different evolution. So if Danny turns, they'll turn. Danny doesn't turn, what are they going to do? They'll just stay low key, and just let it drift off into the sunset. Sad as it is, but it is what it is for the kids.
Well, I mean, I couldn't help thinking if Alana and Jordan are expelled because of what their brother's been convicted of, would there be some chance of a reunion with you?
Well, if I was being selfish for 0.0001 seconds of my life with this organization, it'd be the happiest day of my life. Because now they're suppressive. Suppressors can talk to suppressors. It's a choice thing. Maybe my kids will realize, well, maybe my dad isn't that bad of a person. Even though we've been told he's a bad person, look what's happened. I've just lost my brother. He's going to jail. I've lost my stepdad. I've lost my father, and I've been connected to this organization. Maybe there's something really wrong here that I need to hey, maybe it's not as bad as they said he was out to be. And if they get declared, I'll call them. But to call them any other way, it won't work because they're under the control of that group.
And you were telling me previously when we were chatting that you thought of the two, maybe Alana has a slightly better chance of having that moment of clarity.
Alana's very fiery. Okay, she's a character, beautiful as ever, as you know. I only get to see them on Google. I get to see them on a website. That's the only way I know that my daughter's alive. Or my granddaughter, who I can't see, who's an absolutely beautiful girl. They all look like their grandfather. There's no white genes, if you want to call it. There's the Middle Eastern gene that takes over. Fine. You can tell the difference. So if they decide to go, Alana says, you know what? I want to be with my dad. If their mother passes away one day, God forbid, if it happens, that's life. Now who does Alana have? Her brother's in jail. Her mother's gone. She's got a brother. She's got her other brother. But where's my dad?
Well, I told you that's what I thought of, because I want that for you, Joe. I thought, they've cut you out of their lives for all these years, and now they've seen the result of what Scientology has done to their family, and I want that for you. I want her to have that moment of clarity and to realize.
Look, I'm not perfect, but
you would take them back right away, wouldn't you?
In a heartbeat, because I know it wasn't their fault. They were not like, hey, you know what? He is an asshole. We're done with you. They were forced. They were coerced. They were brainwashed into believing that I must be a suppressive person. Well, I can introduce you to 100 people that I've helped in their lives because I want to help people. It's never going to change with me. But to piss on me because some organization says so, no, that's wrong. It's just totally wrong. If they wake up one day, their dad is open arms. I'm happy. But right now, I'm not going to force it because that wouldn't work, Tony.
Right.
They've got to originate it that they want to be with their dad. That's how
And they might be facing some difficult times. We sort of touched on that earlier. They decided to choose the Masterson name, but now the Masterson name might make it a little tougher to get work. What do you think?
Oh, I would think so. I mean, if you're a producer or a director of a movie or a TV series, okay, you have to weigh that into consideration because it's all about perception. Okay, just look at some of the current actors that have been accused of various crimes that are now okay, they got off, but who's going to hire them? Kevin Spacey, all these guys, who's going to hire them now? Now, jobs that they did years ago, that's fine. They're getting royalties. But today, I'm going to put 30 million or 50 million into a movie, and I'm going to put risk having someone, I could get someone else for $10,000 or whatever, and it's a no-brainer. Why would I want to risk that with a name so it gets trashed and now my movie loses and I lose my money as the investor? It's all business. At the end of the day, it's just business. Sad for them because that's their only skill. They don't have a lot of other skills, and that's fine. But they may have to adapt and modify. That's fine. It is what it is, mate. But yeah, look, they wake up, Dad will always be there. And I will be there no matter until I die. I will be there for them. But I can't force it. It's got to come from them. You see? And I'll tell you an interesting story. My daughter a couple of years ago, 2018, was in Sydney. She was doing the what they call the PR for the Walking Dead, and she met my brother. Okay, and my brother was ecstatic. I have photos of them being met at the restaurant, and I was so happy. And I told my brother, I said, "Listen, don't get too excited because what could happen is she might be pushed into not wanting to know more about her dad because I know how that organization works." But she was ecstatic. She first met my brother and he said, "How's my dad? Is he married? Not married? How's he doing?" She was excited. And that my brother ended up speaking to the family, Danny, Chris, Carol, Christopher, Jordan, like family, because my brother knows the family also well. Next day, she told my brother, "Can't talk about my dad." Shut up. Just like that. Now, who did that influence? It wasn't Alana. It was her mother. Okay, so be it. They don't want that line opened. Fair enough. Or are they afraid of the truth? Well, maybe the dad's not really a expressive person. Everyone's got to follow their own truth, Tony. Good or bad, right or wrong. And one day you're going to meet your maker. You better have done the right thing. And I hope them the best. I do. I'm so proud of them. The whole Masterson family, I'm proud of them for what they've accomplished. What's happened to Danny? He has to face his scenario that he did. Good or bad, right or wrong. It is what it is. But as a kid, he was a good kid. A really good kid. I'm not going to piss on him because he was a good kid. Okay? And his sisters and brothers know that. That's why they're loyal. He's like a big father figure to them. And I respect that. So that's what happens.
Do you think that they simply don't believe any of the allegations against him, or do you think they know about some of that stuff and they're just accepting it?
That's a tough question. Do I think they're going to believe it? No, because it's their brother. It's like the church denying that it doesn't believe in disconnection. They lie, but they're not going to face the truth. But at the end of the day, deep down, no one's going to make up those stories. Okay? Because that's why you have a justice system. The justice system was to find out who's right and who's wrong. It's not an opinion. It's not what I think.
Right.
Based on the data, here's what happens. And that's fair. That's what the justice system should be. He had his shot. Okay? That's what they came up with the decision. You've got to respect that decision, good or bad, right or wrong. And so if they want to think that he didn't do it, that's fine. If they want to think he did it, that's fine. Thing is, they got to live with that. Their brother. Not a good thing.
Yeah.
And the Jane Does, I feel for them. the horror that they went through. I can't imagine going through it once, then going through it twice, and the shit that they had to put up with. As you know, I knew Jane Doe 3 very well. I knew her personally, so I know that system all that well. Okay, and with that being said, it's like justice has to do its course, good or bad, right or wrong, Tony. That's all.
Okay.
Hope that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any other thoughts about Danny Masterson in prison and what the family's going to be going through?
Oh, I think it's just going to be rough, extremely rough. You know, and I don't really get how rough they think it's going to be, and not easy.
Yeah.
You know, I've visited friends in prison, good or bad, right or wrong. It's a different world. Now, especially from their world, Tony, from where they came from Celebrityville.
Right.
That's like driving a Ferrari. Now you're driving a donkey. There's
Yeah.
two different extremes here.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of a break in reality for some people. But look, if he does the time and serves what it is, then he's forgiven. Okay? He does the time and that he's forgiven. If he doesn't, that's another thing. But in truth, they got to live with it, man. It's not an easy look. And you have to remember, I know this family so well. And I've called it out all the time that they're going to be loyal to the death. People don't get it. Loyal to the death. Their mother was a very good mom. Marriage didn't work out, so be it. But as a mother, she ruled the roost in that family. And needed to. That's how it works.
All right. Well, Joe, I really appreciate this. Like I said, we've been talking for a long time, and I've always enjoyed talking with you and getting your perspective.
And I just wanted to thank you, Tony, for honestly portraying, of all the people that are quote unquote not Scientology, that understand Scientology, you are by far miles ahead of everyone and knowing that stuff inside out. So that's so helpful in communicating the truth to people that want to know. So my hat off to you for being, honorable, courageous, testicles up the wazoo, but you know what I'm saying, for doing what you do. And it's much respect.
All right, Joe. Well, thank you very much, man. And
thanks. Man.
We'll be checking in with you again soon. All right.
Thanks
all
a lot,
right.
Tom.
All
Cheers,
right. Talk
man.
to you
All the
later.
best.
Bye bye.